delighted to be sitting here today with, as Brian said, Matthew Prince, co-founder and CEO of CloudFlare. And Matthew, I don't know if you know this, but I think you're the first person I've ever met who holds computer science, law, and business degrees, and some of these from prestigious institutions as well.
Lots of time wasted in school. But.
Well, it's very exciting to meet three, yeah. So CloudFlare is maybe one of the more important internet companies out there, but it may be that not everyone knows about it. So I've been doing a little bit of research into what you do, and I'm discovering that if the internet is Oz, then CloudFlare is in some sense the man behind the curtain making some of the wizardry happen.
So yeah, small and meek and sort of funny looking, but other than that.
No, aside from that, the best possible way. Can you tell us a little bit about what CloudFlare actually does?
Sure. So at CloudFlare, our mission is to help build a better internet, and we probably have lots of customers here in the audience. What we do is we make the internet faster and protect it from bad guys. So we're not directly involved in the ad tech space, although increasingly as concerns of publishers are around how they monetize their pages, we're being drawn into that either by friends like Brian at AppNexus, folks down in Mountain View, or our direct publisher customers. We run one of the largest global networks in the world, and when someone accesses one of our customer sites, they pass through our network. So we have almost 100 data centers in very non-exotic places like San Jose, to 22 across mainland China, across Africa, Europe, and Asia. And every single day, about 8% of all internet requests flow through our network.
8%.
Yeah, and so we have about 15,000 new publishers that sign up for us every single day, about 4 million currently on our platform. And across our global platform, we see well over 1 trillion page views every single month, over 10 trillion requests pass through our network, about 2.8 billion uniques, or essentially every single active device on the internet passes through our network every month.
That's a significant portion of the world population.
Yeah, I mean it's essentially everyone who's online.
Right. So you're saying that you're behind the scenes making the internet faster for people and also safer. And what exactly does that have to do with Donald Trump?
Oh, well, turns out every presidential candidate, except Hillary, interestingly, is a CloudFlare customer. And so recently, Donald Trump, that we like to be behind the curtain, but the hacking group Anonymous threatened Donald Trump, and so we're protecting him. But we're also protecting Goldman Sachs and the FBI and the Central Bank of Brazil. So and everything in between.
So you provide a security layer that even because of your scale, even Anonymous can't DDoS Donald Trump as much as they would like to.
We're pretty. If we can stop the Russian and Chinese government, I'm pretty confident we can stand up to people in Guy Fawkes masks.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Can you guys move forward 4 feet? Move into the light, Matthew.
Here we go.
Out from behind.
Move into the light.
Behind the curtain. Oh, hi there.
Oh.
And they took away my water. Oh well.
Okay.
Thank you.
You feel so exposed now.
I do. It was all of a sudden, it was much more comfortable back there.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why you're actually here with us today. Now, you said something really interesting when we were speaking earlier that I thought was worth sharing with our audience, which is you say that a free and open internet depends on publishers having an open platform that they can monetize against. But actually in that monetization space, you sort of sit in between the users and publishers. So it's interesting to get your perspective on exactly what are the issues there that users and publishers are seeing.
So our goal is from, our customers are publishers, but we end up seeing a huge amount of users. And when we talk to either side of that, it's clear that the ad tech ecosystem is broken. And my favorite stat on this, just to show you how broken it is that the average mobile user pays more in data fees for an ad impression to be delivered than that ad impression is purchased by an advertiser. that inherently means there's a broken market, right? That if the average user is paying more just to get the data for all the tags to load on their page, then there's something that's wrong. And if you ask people who are installing ad blockers why they're doing it, the number one reason is by, right? Second is malware, and third is privacy. Privacy gets a lot of ink, and there's a really important aspect of privacy that I think that the industry needs to respect and that we care a lot about. But the number one reason is performance, right? 50% of the average mobile user's bandwidth bill gets burned just supporting the ad tech ecosystem. Which is kind of crazy because the user's saying, like, what value am I getting for that? And I don't think they see what that value is. I think that value is really important, though, because I don't know another way to make the internet accessible to a global audience without advertising. It's the only micropayment that works, right? And works fairly, and I think it's a real tragedy if we move all behind paywalls that a kid in Botswana all of a sudden can't get content off Stack Exchange because it's behind a paywall, and even though it's a micropayment to get that content, that micropayment is out of reach of them. Advertising is a fair way to make the internet open, and yet, what I was at the dinner last night and was sitting and listening to some people in the ad tech space, and what troubled me was the following two sentences came out of someone's mouth in sequence. I don't trust Google, but I'm really excited about AMP, right? Which is, I don't think you understand how much risk there is to an open internet ecosystem if all of a sudden all of content is being put on either a Google platform or a Facebook platform.
Okay, so let's break it down here. We're talking about a few different things. First of all, or maybe it's all the same thing. First of all, you're saying performance is actually the center of the user experience.
Absolutely.
That's very concrete when you put numbers behind it, like the CPM to data usage fees.
Yep.
So all this talk about annoying ads, really, at the end of the day, it's brass tacks. Okay, so you actually, just on that topic alone, you have some interesting data about ad blocking usage, right?
Yeah, so we for the last month have been pulling data. I'm just going to pull up my phone to do this, and I think we have the first comprehensive data on what actual ad blocking usage is globally. So across the entire internet, 16% of page views have an ad blocker installed. The top countries are Denmark with 33% of page views coming out of Denmark, Estonia 32, Ireland 29, Finland 29, New Zealand 28. We talk about Germany as being an area that is sort of really rich with ad blockers. Actually, Germany and the United States have exactly the same percentage, about 19% of page views out of each of those countries. On average, what I was sort of surprised to find is that the average desktop user, 23.35% of desktop clients have ad blocking installed. In mobile, where actually the real pain is, the industry hasn't been hit by this yet. It's less than 0.5% of mobile devices have ad blocking installed. And somewhat not surprisingly, Safari way outnumbers Android, where it's about 0.47% of Safari browsers have ad blocking installed, but it's only 0.02% of Android browsers that have ad blocking installed. But that's the coming wave. If the industry continues to force the costs, whether that's data usage costs, bandwidth draining costs, or annoyance, but just the actual costs, if those continue to go up, then you're going to see just a massive rise in ad blocking on mobile devices, and that's a real threat to the further development of this industry.
Right. So part of the mitigation then for some publishers, it seems, is to move towards amped or walled gardens. So Can you say a little bit more about what you think is going on there?
What's really interesting, if you have an iPhone in your pocket, pull it out, open your Safari browser, and just search for Hillary. And what you'll see is a carousel if you use Google as your search engine that shows up with a whole bunch of different publishers, all of which are AMP content. And what to do is pull up any of those pages and look at the URL in the bar that's going to that content. And that URL, even if you're on Washington Post content or New York Times content, that URL is Google's URL, which means that while the Washington Post might think that they have segments of their users that they've that they've carefully constructed, they don't own those segments anymore. That content is being sent directly to Google. Instant articles with Facebook is exactly the same thing. That content is being sent directly back, and the information about those users is being sent directly back to those publishers. And what worries me is, while today the benefits are, that you're making the performance significantly faster. I mean, it's an amazing experience that both Instant and
Still
AMP have
performance
created.
then.
It's enormous, and yet it's almost the definition of a Faustian bargain, right? You are giving up control of your audience. You're giving up control of the segments that you have, and inherently, if Google someday has a bad quarter and they need to pull a lever in order to make their numbers, the publishers are going to be the ones that suffer from that. And so what Brian has been talking to us about, what a lot of people in the industry are sort of pushing us to think about is, how can you get the performance of an AMP or an Instant Articles, but in a way which is neutral?
Right.
And what scared me about the conversation last night is that people, I think, don't quite realize the risk that is coming from Instant and AMP, and that if you start to put content there, then it's incredibly difficult. It's impossible to build a platform on somebody else's platform. And even though the performance benefits are enormous, and even though the ecosystem is broken, if everyone rushes to that, I think we're rebuilding AOL, and I don't think that's good for any publisher that's out there.
So we do need to address the data latency and cost issues that are behind these performance constraints, but also make sure to do it in a way that is neutral and free and open, which some of the walled garden solutions are not. So where exactly does CloudFlare fit in then? What can you do to help us all?
I don't know. I mean, to be completely honest, when Brian said you should come speak and give suggestions, I thought, I don't have any suggestions. I guess my question for the folks in the audience is, is there an appetite for creating something like a standard where you take the principles of AMP, but you say, let's not build it necessarily on top of someone who has a horse in the race for the actual ad tech industry. And I think that one of the things that's good about AMP is it is an open standard, but that one of the things that we need to do is have a conversation with publishers to say, do you want to be able to specify whose infrastructure you're necessarily running that on in the background? And I really believe that it's important to keep an internet that preserves the independent internet. And right now, when I look out at this, I think that users are getting really hurt by the way that the ad tech industry is structured, but publishers are getting hurt too, where if any buyer can insist that if I'm Procter & Gamble and I can insist that I'm going to put 4 tags on every page, not only is that causing users to have a terrible experience, but it's also meaning that I'm leaking my segment data out
Right.
to any one of the sort of junky parts of the ad tech ecosystem. And so I don't know what the solution is, but I think that the solution has to be, how do we help publishers make more money? How do we make sure users get the performance and security and privacy that they really care about? And how do we clean up some of the real problem sort of children and the kind of yucky long tail of the ad tech space? And I wish I had a go sign up for this now. But right now I feel a little bit more sort of apocalyptic or nihilistic about the space, where I worry that we're all going to be just giving all of our data to Google and Facebook, and they're going to sort of dial up or down how much revenue publishers make depending on how their quarter is going, and that's a bad outcome.
Well, I think that gives a pretty clear challenge to all of us then to figure out a way to come together to find an open technology platform in some way that will address the latency and leakiness and bad experiences altogether. So maybe it doesn't have to be an apocalyptic vision. It can be a a yellow brick road, shall we say.
I hope not.
All
Anyway,
right.
but anyway,
Thank
we can
you
help.
so much for joining us,
Thanks for
Matthew.
having me.